Welcome to our July garden calendar. This month, we're going to go look at a lot of plants that are in flower this month. Then we're going to go look at the garden. We are going to talk about some additional fertilizing you can do. We're going to talk about a few problems you might encounter in the garden. One of those specifically being blossom end rot on tomatoes. And then we're going to look at what summer vegetable plants you can still plant and get in before the season's end. Then we're going to look a little bit at spraying, some sprays you might need to prevent some diseases or insects, and then how to scout and possibly spray for other problem insects or diseases. Then we're going to go look at what we can prune in July, what needs to be pruned. We're going to go look at lawn care and offer some tips for lawn care. And finally, we're going to wrap up with some other chores and propagation for the month of July. There are many plants in flower in July, and some of those include trumpet creeper, phlox, butterfly weed, daylily, rose of Sharon, sourwood, crepe myrtle, St. John's wort, abelia, canna, dahlia, Shasta daisies, some of your hydrangeas, coreopsis, yarrow, butterfly bush, ice plant, and many other perennials, and then many summer annuals as well. So get out there and enjoy the beautiful plants in flower this month of July. One of the more common problems we have with tomatoes in the home garden in the summer, and especially the month of July here, is blossom end rot. And you can see these tomato plants here. And you can see on the bottom of this tomato, it's getting the black blossom end rot. And now that's a lack of calcium. That's all that is. It's not a disease, it's the lack of calcium being transmitted up through the plant, and there's some different fixes there. If we put a lot of lime down, that tends to help. Lime has calcium, which would move up through the plant. But in containerized plants and raised bed plants, they just suck up a lot of nutrients, and sometimes we have to do some fixes for this. So one of the fixes is if it has normal water flow, it doesn't dry out, it doesn't get real wet, then dry out, real wet, then dry. We put straw down or some mulching material to help keep it more moist on a regular basis. We tend not to get the problem as much. But a quick fix is getting some calcium there. This tomato here is not going to really be a showpiece or may not be edible, so I'll probably just prick that one off. You do want to save and help the other tomatoes that are there. So one thing you can do is you can take about 2 gallons of water, which I have here, about 2 hands of lime, throw that in there, stir it up, and what you're making is a lime slurry, which has a lot of calcium in it. And once you have that lime slurry, you're probably not going to get it all mixed up, but when you get it mixed up really well, you can mix it longer than this. But just to show you, it'll be a slurry, a dark slurry, a white slurry, maybe a gray slurry. Get about 16 ounces of this lime slurry loaded with calcium, and then soak it around the bottom of your tomato plant. So get it all around the base of it, but do that for each tomato plant, and that does get some calcium available. It's dissolved, so it's ready to take up by the roots, and that will help these other tomatoes that are trying to grow and try to keep them from getting the blossom end rot. Okay, now I'd like to talk a little bit about pruning in the month of July. You can do some light pruning on bleeder trees like your maples, dogwoods, birch, and elm this month. You can prune off your dieback limbs of hybrid rhododendron, azalea, mountain laurel, and blueberry. Trim your hedges as needed in July. Continue pruning white pines and narrow leaf evergreens like juniper early in the month of July. Remove flated flowers on flowering perennials to encourage a second flowering. Pinch your mums the first week only in July to encourage branching and denser growth on your mums. But overall pruning, our larger trees we usually do in February, early March. But you can still prune if you've got lower hanging limbs, things of that nature, but try not to prune more than 10% of some of your trees and woody trees and shrubs this month. Okay, one thing a lot of people do when they plant a garden is they mix in fertilizer. They put out fertilizer, till it in, or they put it out around plants right after they plant seeds or transplants. That's good because plants do need the nutrients. But as plants have grown for a month or two, like these larger tomatoes, they've got small tomatoes on there, they're setting fruit. A lot of times, a lot of that nitrogen has run out. It's soaked down, it's been used up by the plants or soaked down into the soil. So now is a great time to side dress. They need some more nutrients to get tomatoes of large size. So come back and side dress. You can just use 10-10-10 fertilizer. If you're in a hurry, you can side dress in a strip. If you're not so much in a hurry, you can just put out fertilizer in a little circle around the outside of each plant. And as you do that, the rain will wash that in. Give those plants that extra boost of nitrogen, other nutrients that they need, and get the large, great tomatoes that you're looking for on that mater sandwich. Okay, let's talk a little bit about spraying for the month of July. It's not always a synthetic pesticide. There's often organic options available. But problems we encounter in July are usually one being the Japanese beetle, the June bugs. They're quite damaging on grapevines. You may need to spray a 7 or Dipel, something of that nature. There are organic options out there. Spray your fruit trees, preventative spray, usually a multi-purpose fruit tree spray. One of the best fungicides to look for in the spray when you purchase this Captan. So the multi-purpose fruit tree spray would be good for apples, peaches, even bunch grapes. And they would probably need to be sprayed every 10 to 14 days if you want to get some good edible fruit. On your vegetable garden, look for the cucumber beetle, your squash bug, your aphids, flea beetle in your eggplant. Other problem pests, if they're there, you may need to spray a spray. But don't spray just to be sprayed. Make sure there's a problem. Scout your vegetables before spraying them. Also, woody weeds tend to be a problem in July, like poison ivy, honeysuckle, and kudzu. Spray with the recommended herbicide there. Earlier, you might have got with a glyphosate Roundup type herbicide, but as you get later in July, they're a little tougher, and you might need something stronger, something with triclopyr or something of that nature. But July is a good month to treat the woody weeds. There's a few tips for spraying in July. Well, in the month of July, we have our summer season vegetables coming on. We still have squash, cucumbers, beans, tomatoes, peppers, a variety of plants in the garden, corn maybe. But as we are still, early July, you can still plant some warm season plants, some of the shorter length season plants like squash, cucumbers, green beans. Those are things you could still put in the ground in early July and still harvest them. Do remember, you're going to have ample water if you plant in early July, because July, August, early September is going to be some hot times. You need at least an inch of water per week. So whether that's overhead or soaker hose, drip irrigation, whatever you've got, you're going to have water if you're going to plant this time of year. But one thing I did notice in the garden, everybody's thinking about bugs. They're bad for the garden. As I was came here and looked. The only thing I could see was good bugs. I saw several ladybugs, some honeybees. Those are good bugs. So we don't want to always go out there and just spray the garden and kill our good and helpful insects. So July is still a very busy month in the garden. Some additional items for the gardener in the month of July are, first of all, propagation. This month is a good time to take semi-hardwood cuttings of azaleas, holly, rhododendron, and some other shrubs. Also, July is an ideal time to divide and transplant both iris and daylilies. Some other items are, look around the house this time of year. Where is the sun shining? Where is it too hot? Where might you need some additional shade? Once those areas are identified in the fall, you can come back and add some additional shade trees to your landscape. And finally, as we turn to dry weather, both your vegetable garden and your landscape plants will benefit from good soaking waterings. Make sure you get at least an inch of water a week, and slow watering is much better with soaker hoses, drip irrigation, even if you water by hand, but slow watering and a longer watering will penetrate the root zone better than multiple frequent waterings. So make sure things don't dry out in the month of July. Get out there and get those plants plenty of water. And remember, it's best to water in the morning so as to prevent a lot of diseases. If you water in the evening and get the leaves wet, they'll be a hot, moist situation which will bring on diseases. So water in the morning if at all possible. So there's your tips for the month of July. Well, as far as mowing goes in the month of July, you should always cut your grass between 3 and 4.5 inches high. Never cut more than a third of your leaf blade surface at one time. If it's really high and it's going to pile up on your grass or shade it, you need to catch it in a bagger. If not, if it's just a third of the leaf blade or less, let the mowings fall into on your grass. It'll cut your fertilizer usage by 20 to 30%. That blade will just decompose and go back into the soil to help the grass. Also, if you can mow in crisscross fashion, that helps reduce some erosion. If you mow in the same pattern all the time, you can create ruts and can cause erosion within your yard. So alternate your mowing, and if you can mow in crisscross pattern, that's best to do so. Besides the mowing height of your lawn, and in our area most people have tall fescue lawns, is to consider weed control. If you have a lot of clover, dandelions, other broadleaf weeds, you can treat with a chemical herbicide. There are some pre-emergents you would put out earlier in the year, but just keep that in mind. But there are some things you can put out for weed control. Also, I do want to mention the Carolina Lawns publication. It's basically the lawn Bible, I call it. It's got great information on varieties of grass, when to sow, how to sow, number of seed to sow, fertilization, all kinds of tips about your lawn. And we do have this at our local extension office. Stop by and we'll get you one of these. Well, we hope you've enjoyed our July garden calendar. If you have questions, call us at 632-4451 or visit us at our website at alexanderextension.com, where there's lots of helpful information and events, and you can also sign up for a monthly newsletter there. That's alexanderextension.com, or stop by and visit us at the Alexander County Service Center at 151 West Main Avenue. Hope to hear from you soon.